Right, hello and welcome year 8 or anyone else who wants to have a stab at this, and we're having a little bit of an introduction to rounding. Okay, now your next lesson, your worksheet lesson, is on rounding to decimal places, but we don't want to just skip completely rounding to whole numbers or integers is the fancy way of saying it. In fact, let's get that written down there, because we need to start getting used to those sort of language. All right, rounding to tens, rounding to hundreds, thousands, or whatever. All right, and we will of course do a bit, like I said, a bit of rounding to decimal places. Now, this is just a bit of an intro I just do with rounding. Okay, that looks a bit weird and rubbish and whatever, but I'm going to pretend that this is a school. Okay, this is a map of a school. We're not allowed through these crosses, otherwise people would say, oh, just go through there or whatever, because obviously that is on school property. All right, now we want to go for a jog around the school. Now, if I went for a jog and I then at this point rolled my ankle, which I have done recently, as in 2 days ago, so feel my pain. All right, I've then got to get back to the start when when I get picked up, or so I don't have to sort of walk all the way home or whatever. But I need to get back to the start. If I got less than halfway, I'm not going to go, oh, I'll just keep going around there. I've rolled my ankle for going, well, in fact, round there, sorry. So I'm going back, right? If I went, yeah, oh, here I've injured myself. Oh no, I better go back. Of course not. If I get there more than halfway, it makes sense. Just keep going, all right? To get back to the start, finish. If I went and exactly halfway, at this point it just makes sense. Halfway or further, I might as well just keep on going. So with rounding, if you get halfway, which is the number 5, or above, you round up. Okay? 4 or below, you round down. Let's do some examples. Okay, round 37 to the nearest 10. We want to round this to the nearest, all right, which involves looking at the number on its right. That's your tens, so we look to the number on the right to decide what's going to happen. That 7 is 5 or bigger, so I round up. So that 3 becomes 4, so I write 40. Next one, nearest 10. We find the 10, it's there, and we circle the number to its right. 3 is a round down number. Now, some people get confused and then change that 7 to a 6. You're never going to actually change the number down. You're rounding 473 down to the nearest 10, which is, of course, 470. So that just becomes then a 0 because it's a round down. Okay, but don't actually change the 10 number down one. Just keep it as the same. Okay. The next one to the nearest whole number, that's the whole, and that's the integer, that's the unit. Okay, so we look to its right. Now that's a 7, so that's a round up, so that 2 is going to become 3, and you just leave it as 3. Okay, so practice questions. Pause it and have a go. There we go, there's all those practices. That's practice 1. I'm going to do a couple practices today. Right, let's go through these then. Round all these to the nearest 10. Okay. 40, because that's the one that we want, and that's what we look at. That's the one we want, that's what we look at. That's going to keep it the same. That's the one we want, that's what we look at. So that's 5 or bigger, so we round up 1. Nearest 10 is here, so we look at that. Now that keeps it the same because it's less than 5, so that means that 0 stays as it is. Over here, we now want to round to nearest 100, so that's what we're looking at. I'm sorry, that's what we want, so that's what we look at. Round up, 300, that's what we want, that's what we look at. Now this is important because a lot of people think, oh, that 9 rounds that up to 5, and then that rounds that up to 5. No, you don't even look at that, you just look at this one. 4 is not big enough to round it up, so it keeps it the same, 400. That's what we want. That's what we look at. Keeps it the same. There's the hundreds in this one. Be careful, because obviously I've been doing the first one, but this is in thousands here, so that's the hundreds. So that's what we look at, which makes it go up 1. And we've got that 1,300. Next batch of answers. That's what we want, so that's what we look at. Rounds it up to 3. That's what we want, so that's what we look at. Rounds it up to 39. That's what we want, that's what we look at. Rounds up to 13. That's what we, oh no, sorry. That's what we want, because that's the whole, that's the unit. So that's what we look at. Now 9 rounds that up, so that 0 goes to 1. Okay, the next one, that's what we want, so that's what we look at. 9.9 then, that rounds it up, so the 9 becomes 10. So we write 10. Right, couple practice before we get on to some decimal place questions. Right, want to round this to 1 decimal place, same as what we've been doing, apart from rather than looking at the tens, the hundreds, the units, whatever, we look at the 1 decimal place, the first decimal place. Now, that there is a decimal point, not to be confused with a decimal place. Then you have decimal places. That's our first decimal place. Then our second is the one after that, second. Then third, and then so on for however many there are. Third. Okay, so decimal point, decimal place, decimal place, decimal place. So I want to round to 1 decimal place. In the example, we'd say decimal place, not just DP. Okay, so decimal place, 1 decimal place. That's the one we're looking at. I've got loads of arrows now. Let's get rid of those arrows for a second. And so that's the one we look at. That's the one we want. That's the one we look at. So 3 does not round it up, so we leave it the same, 0.7. Round to 2 decimal places. That's the second decimal place. So that's what we look at. That does round that one up, so it becomes 0.74. Okay? Have a go yourself now by pausing it and then having a go. Round to 1 decimal place. That's what we want. That's what we look at. Rounds up, 4.8. That's the one we want. So that's what we look at. Now that rounds that 9 up. Now 9, of course, we can't just squeeze in 10 there like 3.10. We write 10, but that means the 1 goes over here and that becomes 0. You carry that 1 across. So it becomes 4.0. Now you might be thinking, sure, that's just 4. But if they've asked you for 1 decimal place, you must write to 1 decimal place. So sorry if that's a bit of a trick question. And if that helps you with some of the later ones, pause it again, change some of your answers if you need to. That's absolutely fine because you've learnt something new there. If you already knew it, then fine, obviously don't worry. Right, this is the one we want, so that's what we look at. That doesn't change it, so we leave it as 4.8. This is the one we want, that's what we look at. That does round up, so that's 13.8. Now let's have a look at these ones. That's the second decimal place. That's what we look at. Doesn't change it at all, so 5.73. That's the one we want, so we look at that. Again, doesn't change anything there because it's less than 5. Right, you've got a 0 there. That's fine. That's the first. So this one's the second. So we look at that. So we end up with 0.03 does go up 4. And this one's a really nasty one, okay? There's the second decimal place. That's what we look at. That moves that up to 10, which takes 1 across. Sorry, I'll move my hand out the way of it. That becomes 10. So I'm going to write a 0, and I'm going to carry the 1 over here. But that 1 then adds up to that 9, and that makes 10. So I put 0 there and carry the 1. And then that 1 that I've carried adds to that 0 to make 1. Don't forget to put the decimal point in. So we get 1.00. Again, you can't write that as just 1 because it wants your answer 2 decimal places. So you write 1.00. Okay? Right. That last one was really nasty, and this one over here. So sorry about that. But there's all your answers. Feel free to rewind and have another go at them if you need to. All right? See you later, guys. Look after yourselves. Bye.